Hello there, and welcome to Restful Diaries. I'm so glad you found your way to our cozy little home here. If you enjoy a slow and relaxing story like this, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel. It helps other tired and restless souls find their way to us. Before we begin, in a moment, for your comfort, the image on your screen will begin to dim slowly until it is almost dark. Nothing is wrong. It fades on purpose, so that no light pulls you back once you have started to drift off. The soft sounds of wind through a countryside and the raindrops on a cobblestone road will keep playing long after the story has ended. So you can let these sounds carry you all the way down into a deep and restful sleep. If it helps, you can set a sleep timer and turn off autoplay so that nothing wakes you once you've drifted off. Now, perhaps the day asked a great deal of you, and you'd like to set it down now by the comfort of a warm fire. Perhaps you're simply the sort of person who likes to end the night somewhere safe, with the rain left outside and a quiet voice for company. Either way, these next few hours are yours. So, settle yourself however you are most comfortable, and when you are ready, let your eyes close. Breathe in slowly and let it out slower still, and feel your chest rise and fall. Let your shoulders come down. Let the day go now. All of it, the things you did and the things you did not get to, and hand them over to your breath, one slow breath at a time, and let a warmth come into you as you breathe, the warmth of a room with a fire in it, late at night, while somewhere out beyond the walls the rain comes down soft and steady and cannot reach you. With each breath, let yourself grow a little heavier and a little easier, and sink a little further down until there is only one voice and a single lamp burning in the window of an old roadside inn. Because tonight we are at the Wheatsheaf, a coaching inn on the turnpike road between two market towns in the wet autumn of 1893. There is a great fire in the kitchen and a smaller one in the snug. There is a lamp set in the front window every dusk, so that a traveller on the dark road will know there is a warm room and a bed not far ahead. The landlord is a man named Samuel Reed. 22 years he has kept this inn, and he keeps it well. There is a small front room he has aired and made ready, with the bed warmed, for a guest who wrote to say he would come before Martinmas. The guest has not come yet. Samuel keeps the room ready, all the same. You'll hear of that lamp in the window, and of the cat, Smut, asleep by the hearth. and of the barrels in the cool cellar, and of the carrier's cart that comes each market day, and of the front room kept aired for a man who may yet walk in out of the rain. Nothing much will happen in this story, but that is, on this channel, the point, so you can fall fast asleep without the slightest care to be had. Now, the lamp is not yet lit, and the light is going out of the sky. Let's begin. Friday, the 20th of October, 1893. A wet end to the week, and a quiet one, which after a loud week is a thing to be glad of. The rain came on in the afternoon, and has not stopped since. It is the soft, steady, all-day rain of late October. Not a storm, only a sky that has decided to empty itself slowly over the valley and take its time about it. The road outside the door has gone to a dark ribbon, and the ruts have filled, and the brook at the bottom of the meadow has a fuller voice than it had yesterday. Inside, it is dry and warm, and that is the whole of an innkeeper's work, when you come down to it. To be the dry, warm place on a wet road. I built the kitchen fire up well this morning, and have kept it up all day. Lizzie had bread in by 8, and the smell of it went all through the house, the way it does. And a carter who stopped at 11 for his dinner said he had smelled the loaves from the turn of the road, which I do not quite believe, but was glad to hear. At dusk, I lit the lamp and set it in the front window, as I do every night of the year. It is a plain brass lamp with a good clear chimney, and I trim the wick each evening before I light it, so that it burns even and does not smoke the glass. A traveller on this road, in the wet dark, will see that one yellow window a long way off, and will know that there is an inn, and a fire, and a bed. I have been that traveller myself, years ago, on other roads. I know what one lit window is worth. The house is quiet tonight. Old Mr. Brearley by the snug fire with his ale, and the cat smut on the warm hearthstone, and the rain on the windows. I will bank the fires soon and go up. Saturday, the 21st of October. Market day tomorrow in the town. So today was the day for getting the house ready for it. And the rain did not stop me, because the work was indoors. I went down to the cellar in the afternoon. The cellar is the coolest, stillest room in the inn, cut half into the bank behind the house, and it keeps an even chill all the year. The autumn ale has been settling down there 3 weeks now, in the big barrel, and today I judged it ready and tapped it. There is a knack to tapping a barrel that you do not forget once your hands have learned it, you set the tap to the hole and you drive it home with one clean knock of the wooden mallet, not two, because two will start a leak around the wood. One knock, square and true, and the tap is seated and the barrel is sound. I drew off a half-pint to try it. It had come out clear and brown and a little sweet. A good autumn ale. Better than last year's, I think. Though a man always thinks that of the barrel he is standing next to. I will say nothing to the customers and let them find it. Smut followed me down to the cellar, as the cat always does, and sat on the cold step and watched me work and followed me up again. The cat does not like the cellar, but does not like to be left out of a thing either. That is most of us, I suppose. The lamp is lit. The rain holds on. A good day's quiet work behind me, and the market trade tomorrow. Sunday, the 22nd of October. A still grey Sunday, the rain holding off for once into a wet, white mist, and a day for the small indoor keeping that an inn always needs and never quite finds the time for in a busy week. I saw to the lamps today, all of them, not only the window lamp. An inn runs on lamps and candles through a winter, and a lamp ill-kept is a poor smoky light and a waste of good oil besides. I trimmed every wick in the house square and clean, and rubbed the chimneys clear with a soft cloth and a breath of warm air, and filled the reservoirs from the oil jar in the scullery, and set each lamp back in its place, ready for the dark. There is a quiet pleasure in a row of clean trimmed lamps waiting for the evening. A small thing. The house is full of small things, and the small things are the house. I sat an hour over the guest book too, and the week's reckoning. I am no great scholar with a pen, but I keep the book fair, every traveller's name and the date and what was had, and the column of figures down the side. The book goes back to the year I took the inn, and the early hands in it are my own younger hand, rounder and slower, and my late father's hand before that, for the book was his book first. A man can turn the pages of a guest book on a quiet Sunday and walk back through 20 years of strangers who slept one night under his roof and went on their way. I do not do it often, but I did it today and was the better for it. Smut on the warm hearthstone, the mist at the glass, the lamps trimmed and ready, the Sabbath kept slow, as a Sabbath should be. Tuesday, the 24th of October, market day, and the busiest day of our week. Rain or no rain. And today it was rain. Mr. Coombe the carrier came by a little after noon, as he does every market day, his cart heaped and roped, and a sheet of oiled canvas over the whole of it, and his old horse steaming in the wet. Coombe carries everything along this road. He carries parcels and baskets, and a coop of hens, and a chest of drawers. And he carries the news, and he carries the post for the houses that are off the towns round, which is how the Wheatsheaf gets most of its letters. He came in dripping, and stood by the kitchen fire, and steamed like his horse, and took a hot ale and a plate, and gave me the week's letters out of his inside pocket, where he keeps the dry ones. And among them was a letter I have been half waiting for, without quite letting myself wait for it. It is from a Mr. Ellery. Years ago, when I first had the inn, a young Mr. Ellery lodged here a season while he did some business in the district, and we became friendly in the easy way a landlord and a long guest do. And then his business ended, and he went away south, and I heard nothing of him for a great many years. And now here is his hand again on an envelope, older and slower than I remember it, but the same hand. He writes that his work brings him back to this district before the winter, and that he means to lodge again at the Wheatsheaf, if I will have him, and that he will come before Martinmas. I will have him. Of course I will have him. I sat down at the kitchen table with the letter, in the middle of the market day noise, and read it twice, and was glad in a way that surprised me a little. Wednesday, the 25th of October, a quieter day after the market, and the rain easing to a drizzle by afternoon, and I spent the best of the day on the front room. The front room is the best of the inn's bedchambers, the one over the porch, with the window that looks down the road. It is where Mr. Ellery lodged before, as it happens, though he will not remember the room, and I had half forgotten it myself until his letter. I have made it ready. I aired the room first, which after a damp autumn is the whole of the work, throwing the window up for the dry hour in the afternoon and letting the wind go through it. Then I made the bed up fresh, and I took the copper warming pan, the long-handled one, and filled it with coals from the kitchen fire, and ran it between the sheets to drive the damp out of them, sliding it slow up and down the bed so as not to scorch the linen. A bed that has been warmed once holds off the damp for days if the room is kept shut after. I do not know which day he will come. The letter said only before Martinmas, and Martinmas is more than a fortnight off. But I find I would rather the room were ready a fortnight early than an hour late, and so it is ready, and I will warm it again every few days until he come, and keep the damp from creeping back. Lizzie asked me why I was warming a bed for a guest with no notice. A friend was coming, I explained to her. She seemed to think that answer enough, and so did I. Thursday, The 26th of October, baking day, and the whole house warm with it from before light. Lizzie bakes twice a week, and Thursday is the great bake, the week's bread and a good deal more besides. The oven is a brick oven set into the kitchen wall beside the range, and it is heated the old way, which is the only way it knows. You burn a fire of dry wood inside the oven itself, right in the brick, an hour or more, until the bricks are too hot to hold a hand near, and the soot has burned white off the roof of the oven, which is the baker's sign that the heat has come right. Then you rake out every coal and every ash, and you swab the floor of the oven with a wet cloth on a long pole, and you put the bread in to the bare hot brick, and you shut it close. The bricks give their stored heat back slow and even, and bake the bread better than any iron range will ever do. Lizzie had the dough proving overnight in the trough by the fire, under a cloth, and this morning she knocked it back and shaped the loaves, and in they went. After the bread, the things that like a falling heat, the pies and a batch of buns and a great crock of beans to bake slow all the day on the last of it. By noon, the kitchen table was a sight. The brown loaves cooling in their rows, and the smell of it, that smell there is no improving upon, all through the inn and out at the door to the road. A carter swore again he had smelled it from the bend in the road. I begin to think they may. On a still morning, it is a good thing to be known by on a wet road. Better than most. Friday, the 27th of October. Rain again in the night. Hard for an hour before dawn, and I lay and listened to it on the roof, and thought of nothing in particular, which is the best kind of lying awake. The morning was given to the stable. We have 4 stalls and a loose box, and on a wet autumn the stable wants more minding than the house does, because a horse standing in on wet days will founder if the bed is not kept dry and clean. Young Ned is learning the work, and he is a good lad, willing, and he has the one thing you cannot teach, which is that he likes the horses, and the horses know it. I showed Ned again today how to make a stall up properly. You take the wet straw out, all of it, not just the top of it. You let the floor dry an hour if you can. You lay the new straw thick at the back where the horse stands, and bank it up the walls a little, so the beast is not lying against cold stone. Then the manger filled, and the water fresh. A horse cannot tell you it is cold, or that its bed is wet. You have to know it for the horse. Ned is learning to know it. A pair of travellers tonight, father and son by the look of them, going down to the coast, glad of the beds. The lamp is in the window. The rain has come back. 2 horses warm and dry in the stable. 2 men warm and dry above. And the cat asleep. And the fires banked. A full enough house for a wet Friday. Sunday, the 29th of October. The Sabbath is the inn's slow day, and I keep it slow on purpose. The bar shut in the morning, while the village is at church, and opened again at noon, and a quiet afternoon of regulars by the snug fire. Old Mr. Brearley was in his chair by 2, as he is most every day, in truth. But Sunday is his long day. Brearley is past 80 and has buried a wife and most of his friends, and he comes to the snug not so much for the ale, which he drinks slowly and little of, as for the fire and the company and the sound of other people being alive in a room. I keep his chair for him. It is an understood thing in the house that the settle end by the snug fire is Mr. Brearley's, and a stranger who takes it is quietly moved along by the regulars before I have to say a word. We talked of the wet autumn, as everyone talks of the wet autumn, and Brearley said it put him in mind of the floods of '48, when the brook came up over the road and into the very kitchen of this inn, before my time, and a boat was rowed down the turnpike. I have heard the story of '48 from Brearley a dozen times, and I listen to it again, gladly, because a man past 80 who wants to tell you a thing he remembers should be let tell it. The rain on the window all the while. Smut moved closer to the fire as the evening cooled. A small, warm Sunday. Tuesday, the 31st of October. A small, fine evening. The kind that comes unlooked for and stays in the memory longer than the grand ones do. A traveller took a bed tonight. A quiet, older man going north. And after his supper he asked, shy about it, whether the house minded a little music, for he had a fiddle in his pack and was used to paying his way at an inn with a tune. I said the house would be glad of it, and meant it. So he took out the fiddle by the snug fire, an old dark instrument, much mended, and tuned it low, and played, not loud, and not for dancing, slow old airs, the kind a man plays for himself on a long road, and one or two I half knew and could not name, and one that old Mr. Brearley knew the whole way through, and hummed under his breath in his cracked old voice with his eyes shut. The regulars went quiet for it. Lizzie came and stood in the kitchen doorway with a cloth in her hands, and forgot the cloth. The rain came on again outside, soft, and the fire ticked, and the fiddle went on, quiet and sweet, for the better part of an hour. There is no till money in an hour like that. The man drank 2 ales, and I would take nothing for the bed in the end, and called it square for the music. And he seemed to think he had the better of the bargain, and so did I, which is the mark of a fair trade. He went up to his bed, and the house was quieter after the music than it had been before it, a settled kind of quiet. You cannot plan such an evening. You can only keep a fire and an open door and be ready. And now and then one walks in out of the dark with a fiddle in his pack. Wednesday, the 1st of November. November in, and the brook higher. I went down to look at it this morning in my boots, and it is up over the lower stones and running brown and quick, not yet near the road, but fuller than I like to see it this early in the month. A wet autumn is one thing, and an innkeeper can keep dry and warm through any amount of ordinary rain. But a brook that is already full at the start of November, with the wet ground unable to take any more, is the beginning of a different thought, and the thought is floods. I will keep an eye on the brook now, morning and evening. Brearley's story of 48 is a good story by the fire, and a less good thing to have happened to your kitchen. I warmed Mr. Ellery's room again today. 6 days now the room has been ready. The bed took the warming pan well, and the linen is sweet and dry. No second letter, and no Ellery. Before Martinmas, he said, and there are still 10 days of that. Saturday, the 4th of November. A raw, cold day, with the rain turning half to sleet in the afternoon, and a good night of trade for it, because cold drives men indoors to a fire, and an inn is a fire that sells ale. I mulled ale for the first time this season tonight, which is always a small marker of the year for me. The first mulling. There is a way I do it. I heat the poker in the kitchen fire until the end of it glows. Not red, but a deep, dull orange. And I have the ale ready in the tall pot with a little sugar and a few cloves and a curl of lemon peel if I have lemon, and a scrape of nutmeg. Then the hot poker straight down into the ale, and it hisses and froths up, and the whole drink takes the heat in a moment, and the spices wake up in it. You pull the poker out and wipe it, and the ale is mulled, hot and brown and spiced. And on a sleet cold night, a man will hold the cup in both hands before he ever drinks from it, just for the warmth of it in his palms. A traveller came in near 8, soaked to the bone, a young man on foot who had misjudged the distance to the town and been caught by the dark and the sleet. I sat him by the kitchen fire and took his wet coat to dry by the range, and gave him a mulled ale and a bowl of Lizzie's broth, and watched the cold go out of him by degrees, the shivering first, and then the colour coming back, and then the talk. By 9, he was a different creature from the drowned thing that came in at 8. That is the work. That is the whole of the work, and I love it. The lamp is in the window for the next one. Monday, the 6th of November. A brewing day, the autumn barrel being well down now after the market trade, and the cellar wanting filling against the winter and the feast to come. Brewing is a long day on your feet and a warm one, which suits November. I was up early and had the copper heating, the great fixed kettle in the brew house, and the malt ready, my own malt that I have from the same maltster these 15 years and trust. You heat your water, your liquor as the brewers call it, to the right warmth, not boiling, hand hot and a little more, and you mash the malt into it in the wooden tun and stir it well, so there are no dry knots left in it. And then you cover it close and leave it to stand and work for an hour or more. The mash standing has a smell I cannot rightly give to a man who has not smelled it. Sweet and grainy, and warm, a little like the bread, but heavier, and it fills the whole brew house and seeps into the inn. Then you draw off the sweet wort from under the grain, slow, and run it back through until it comes clear, and boil it with the hops, and the smell changes again to the green, bitter smell of hops on the boil. Then the long cooling, and the yeast set to it, and then it is out of my hands, and the barrel's work to do, down in the cool dark, for the weeks it takes. It will not be ready for a month or more. That is the way of it. You brew. In November, the ale you will draw at the new year. A man who keeps an inn learns to work a month or two ahead of his own thirst, and the thirst of his house, and to trust the cool, dark cellar to do the slow part for him while he sleeps. Tuesday, the 7th of November, market day, and Coombe the carrier, and another letter in his inside pocket, and this one from Mr. Ellery. Ellery writes that he is delayed. The floods to the south have made the road slow, and in places shut them altogether, and his business has held him longer than he hoped, and he cannot now say the day, only that he still means to come, and still hopes to be at the Wheatsheaf by Martinmas, or soon after, and begs my pardon for the uncertainty of it. There is no pardon needed. A man cannot order the roads or the rain. I wrote him back a short line to go with Coombe on his return, saying only that the room is ready and will stay ready, and that he is to come when he comes, and not to fret about the day, and that there will be a fire and a warmed bed whatever night he arrives. I did not say that I have warmed the bed every few days for a fortnight. There are things a man does that he need not put in a letter. Thursday, the 9th of November, 2 days off Martinmas, and the house busy with the getting ready for it, because Martinmas is a feast as well as a term day, and the inn keeps the feast. The goose came today from the farm up the lane, a good heavy bird, and Lizzie and I spent the back of the afternoon on it and on the other Martinmas work. There is a great deal of work in November that is really work against the winter, the laying down of things. We salted a side of pork into the crock with the bay and the saltpeter, layer upon layer, pressed down, to keep us in bacon through the cold months. Lizzie has the last of the year's apples wrapped each in its own twist of paper and laid in the loft, where they will keep till spring, if no two of them touch. The onions are roped and hung. The hams are up in the kitchen chimney in the smoke. There is a deep satisfaction in this work that I do not fully know how to name. To fill a larder before a winter is one of the oldest easy pleasures there is, I think. You look at the salted crock and the roped onions and the apples in the loft and the hams in the smoke, and you know that whatever the weather does for the next 4 months, the house is provisioned. The house is safe. The people under your roof will be fed. It is a good thing to know, walking through your own kitchen in the dark before bed. The rain is steady tonight. The brook is higher again, but the larder is full, and the lamp is lit. Saturday, the 11th of November. Martinmas. Martinmas. And the inn full and warm and loud in the best way. And no Ellery yet, but I had half stopped expecting him for the feast itself, and was not cast down by it. We had the goose, and a great deal of it, and the new autumn ale flowed, and the snug and the kitchen were both full from the early afternoon. The farm men were paid off and hired on at the term, some changing places, some staying, and a hiring day always brings a particular warmth to an inn. The men with their year's wage in their pockets, and a feast in front of them, and the winter's work settled, one way or the other. I do not drink much on a busy night. A landlord who matches his customers cup for cup does not keep his inn long. But I take a small cup of the new ale at Martinmas by the kitchen fire when the worst of the rush is past, and I drink it slowly, and I look at the full warm rooms, and I let myself be glad of them for the space of 1 cup. I did that tonight. The ale was good. The rooms were full. Alas, old Mr. Brearley fell asleep upright in his chair by 9, and had to be gently waked and walked home by his neighbour. But he had had his feast first, and woke up smiling, and that is no sad thing at past 80. The lamp burned in the window all the long evening. The rain never quite stopped. A good Martinmas. Sunday, the 12th of November. The slow day after the feast, and a grey, wet quiet over everything, and I gave it to small mending jobs which is what the day after a feast is good for. The long settle by the kitchen fire has had a loose leg this month past, working looser with all the Martinmas sitting, and today I mended it properly at last. I turned it up and found the tenon had shrunk in the mortise, the way old dry wood does, and worked loose in its socket. I made a couple of thin oak wedges with the knife, and I knocked them into the joint around the tenon to swell it tight again, and glued them, and stood the settle up to set. It is firm now, firmer than it has been in a year. A loose joint is mended by filling what the years have shrunk away. There is something in that worth more than the settle, but I am too plain a man to find it. And the settle is mended, which was the job. I warmed Ellery's room again in the afternoon. The bed is sweet, and the room is dry. Martinmas is past now, the day he named. But he wrote also of soon after, and I hold to the soon after. The room stays ready. A peddler took a bed tonight, glad of it, his pack of pins and ribbons and small wares dry in the corner. The rain on the glass, smut by the fire. Tuesday, the 14th of November. The dark drawing in early now. The lamp lit before 5, and the inn at its best, I think, in this part of the year, when the dark comes early and the cold comes with it, and a lit, warm room is the whole of what a body wants. A quiet night, only the regulars, and I will own, I love these quiet, dark season nights more than the busy ones, though I would not say so to a busy night's takings. The snug full of the small, steady sounds of men easy by a fire, the click of the dominoes, the slow talk, Brearley in his chair telling a young carter about a hard winter 40 years gone, when the snow lay to the tops of the hedges and the mail did not come through for 9 days. The young man listened, which pleased me, for the young do not always listen, and the old have earned a listener. I mulled a jug, and we sat late. There is a particular comfort in a small, dark season evening that a feast cannot give you, because a feast is an event, and an event ends. But a quiet, dark night by a fire is just the ordinary good of being warm and dry and in company while the year does its cold work outside. And the ordinary good is the deeper good in the end. I warmed Mr. Ellery's room again before I went up. Martinmas is 3 days behind us now, and still he has not come, and still I do not fret, only keep the room. He will come when the floods let him. The bed is sweet and dry. The lamp is in the window for him, and for whoever else is on the road. Wednesday, the 15th of November. a loud, full, happy night, and an unlooked-for one, for a wedding came in out of the rain. A young couple were married in the village this morning, and were to ride to the bride's people on the far side of the town for the wedding supper. The whole party, a dozen of them, on horses and in a trap. But the rain came down in earnest by the early afternoon, and the road was running, and they got as far as the Wheatsheaf, cold and wet and laughing, and looked at the road ahead and at my warm windows, and made the easy choice, and held the wedding supper here instead. There is no warning for a thing like this, and no preparing for it. You simply do it. Lizzie and I put together a supper out of the Martinmas stores, and what the house had, the cold goose and a ham down from the chimney, and bread, and a great dish of buttered potatoes and the new ale. And we built both fires high, and cleared the kitchen for them, and for 3 hours the old inn held a wedding. It had not known about that morning. The bride sat by the kitchen fire in her good dress with her shoes off and steaming, and was the happiest creature I have seen in this house in a year. They got away by the early dark, the rain easing for them, as if it had only wanted to give them their hour by a fire. I would not have planned such an evening, but an inn that cannot take in a wet wedding on no notice is not much of an inn. The lamp is lit. The kitchen still smells of the feast. A good day. Friday, the 17th of November. The wind got up today, and that is a new thing, and not a thing I welcome. The rain we have had a month of has been still rain, straight down rain, falling out of a heavy, quiet sky. But today the sky was moving, low and fast from the west, and the wind came with it. And by afternoon it was driving the rain against the front of the house in long, hard handfuls, and finding every small gap, as wind always does. I went round the house in the afternoon and saw to the shutters and the latches, and put a wedge under the stable door, that the wind had begun to work, and brought in a great deal of coal and wood, and stacked it dry in the kitchen passage, more than a day's worth, because a wind from the west at this time of year, on top of a month of rain, has a storm in it somewhere, and I would rather lay in the fuel now than fetch it across a wet yard in a gale. The brook is loud tonight, louder than the wind. I went down at dusk with the lantern, and it is up to the top of its banks, brown and fast and ropey, carrying branches, not over yet, but full to the brim, with more rain coming and a wind behind it. I have lit the lamp and wedged the window sound behind it, so it will not gutter. Whatever is on the road tonight will see it. The house is fueled. The stores are in. The beasts are dry. Let the wind come. We are ready for it. Saturday, the 18th of November. The wind all night and no real sleep in it. Not because I was afraid, but because a house in a gale talks all night, and an innkeeper listens to his house. You learn the sounds of your own roof. There is a sound the slates make in a wind that is only the wind, and there is a sound they make when one has lifted, and they are different sounds. And I lay and listened and heard only the first all night, which is to say, the roof held. The chimneys roared. A loose board somewhere on the wash-house tapped till near dawn, and I will find it and nail it tomorrow. For a board that taps tonight is a board that flies tomorrow. Coombe did not come today, and that has not happened on a market eve in years. A boy came up from the village instead, wet through, with word that the road to the south is under water, in 3 places now, and the bridge at the low ford not to be trusted, and that Coombe had turned his cart back. So no post, and no news but that, and the district is closing in on itself the way a country does in a flood. Each house and village an island for a few days till the water falls. I am not troubled. The Wheatsheaf is a good island. The larder is full from Martinmas. The cellar is sound. The fuel is in. The well is our own. We could keep ourselves and a house full of guests a week or more and not feel it. That is what the autumn's work was for. Sunday, the 19th of November. The gale eased a little in the morning, a false easing, the kind that is only the storm taking its breath, and I used the quiet hour for the last of the battening down. I found the tapping board on the wash-house and nailed it fast, 2 good nails, in the rain. I went round every shutter again. I had Ned bring all 4 horses into the inner stalls and bed them deep, and we put the trap and the cart into the cart shed and roped the shed door. I drew a great jug of ale up from the cellar and set it in the kitchen, so that if the cellar flooded in the night, as it has done twice in my years here, we would not be without. Small things, all of them, but a storm is met with small things done in time, not with great ones done in a hurry. By dark, the wind was full again, and harder than before, and the rain with it flat and stinging. And I lit the lamp and set it in the window, and stood a moment looking out at the streaming dark glass with the one yellow flame steady behind it. There will be someone on the road tonight who needs that light. I do not know who, but on a night like this, the lamp is not habit. It is the most useful thing in the house. Monday, the 20th of November. Afternoon. I write a line in the afternoon, which I rarely do, because the look of the day is such that I think there will be no quiet to write in tonight. The wind dropped near dawn to an uneasy stillness, and the rain stopped, and the morning came on grey and heavy and wrong, with a yellowish cast low in the west that I have learned over the years to mistrust above any black cloud. A black cloud is a shower. That low yellow light is a storm gathering itself. The brook is loud in the stillness. The cattle in the meadow are all stood with their tails to the west. The very birds are quiet. The whole valley has the held breath of a place that knows what is coming and is waiting for it. So I have spent the calm getting ready for the loud. The fuel doubled again in the kitchen passage. The water butts full. A great pot of broth started that will feed whoever the night brings. Every beast in and bedded. The window lamp filled to the brim, and the spare lamp filled beside it. For it will be a long dark, and I will not run it dry. Ned has gone round every shutter with me once more. There is nothing more to do now but light the lamp at dusk and wait, and keep the fires high, and have the door ready to open. The light is already going, and it is not yet 4. Here it comes. Monday, the 20th of November. Night. I am writing this late, by the kitchen fire, because there will be no sleep for me tonight, and I would as soon set the night down as it happens. This is the storm then, the one the month has been building toward. It came on full at dusk, and has done nothing but harden since. The wind is a steady roar now, with great blows inside it that shake the house to the cellar, and the rain is not falling, but flying. And the brook, when I went down with the lantern at 7, is over its banks at last, and spreading across the low meadow in a black sheet, though not yet near the house, which stands up on its bit of rise as the old builders knew to set it. And the house is filling. The first were a carrier and his mate caught on the road with a stuck wagon, who left the wagon roped to a tree and came on to my light on foot, soaked past speech. Then a doctor, of all people, riding back from a confinement at an outlying farm, his horse blown and shaking, who saw the lamp and turned in, and near wept with relief at a stable for the beast and a fire for himself. Then a family in a covered trap, a man and his wife, and 2 small children, and a servant girl who had been making for the town and could go no further, the children white and frightened by the wind. I have taken them all in. Of course I have taken them all in. That is what the light is for. Lizzie has the broth going, and the kettle never off the fire. And Ned has 4 strange horses to settle among ours, and is settling them well. And I am drawing ale, and hanging wet coats, and carrying warming pans, and finding beds, and shaking down straw mattresses, in the loft for the overflow. The house that was too quiet a month ago is as full as I have ever known it, full of wet, cold, frightened people getting slowly warm and dry and easy by my fires. The two small children are asleep already, the pair of them, in a nest of blankets by the kitchen hearth, with Smut curled against the smaller one as if the cat had been set there to mind them. I keep looking at them. A house can hold a great deal of storm out if its fires are lit and its larder is full and its doors will open. Still Monday night, past 11. The doctor and I have just been round the whole house together, he offering to help and I glad of the company. And it is a strange, fine thing to walk through your own inn near midnight in a storm and find every room of it warm and full and breathing. The family have the two back chambers. The carrier and his mate are dry now and fed, and have taken their ale to the snug to wait the storm out, being men who would rather sit up by a fire in a storm than lie in a strange bed through one, and I understand them, and have left them to it with the jug. The servant girl is asleep in the chair by the children. The doctor will take the small room over the kitchen. Only the front room stands empty, with its bed warmed, as it has stood ready these 4 weeks. I will not give that room away tonight, full as the house is. I have beds enough without it, the loft mattresses shaken down and aired by the fire. The front room is Mr. Ellery's, and though no man could be on the roads in this, and though Martinmas is a week and more behind us, I find I cannot give the room over. It is a foolishness. I know it for a foolishness. But the keeping of that one room ready all these weeks has become a small, steady thing in me, like the lighting of the lamp, and I will not undo it tonight of all nights. The doctor asked me, by the fire, was I not weary, with the whole houseful to mind, and no bed for myself tonight? I said no, and found as I said it, that it was true. A man is not weary doing the work he was made for, in the place he was made for. The wind howls, the lamp burns, the house holds. Toward midnight, a lull, or what passes for one, and I have a moment by the fire, and will take it. The brook has stopped rising. The doctor and I judge, from the lantern marks I set on the meadow gate at dusk, and again at 10. It has spread wide, but it has stopped climbing, and the house's rise is well above it. The kitchen is warm and dim, and full of the sound of sleeping. I built the kitchen fire up once more, and put the big kettle back to the heat, and I went to the front window to see to the lamp, to trim it and steady it for the long part of the night, and I stood there a moment with my hand on the warm brass, looking out, and far down the road, where it bends by the elms, there was a light on the road. I want to set this down exactly while it is still new in me. A small swinging light, low down, the kind a man carries. A lantern on the road, in the storm, coming on slowly toward the inn. I watched it come. It is no quick thing. A man on foot with a lantern against a gale, and the light came on by inches, swinging, stopping, coming on again. I had the door open, and a flood of warm light thrown out across the wet road before he was halfway from the elms, so that he would have the inn's whole lit doorway to walk toward, and not just the one window. And I stood in the doorway with the wind tearing at me and watched the lantern come, and the man behind it slowly take shape out of the dark and the rain. He was an old man, older than I had let myself picture, soaked through and bent into the wind and worn down to the last of his strength, with a sodden bag held against his chest under his coat, and a lantern near guttered out. He came up the last of the road and into the spill of light from my door and lifted his face, and it was Mr. Ellery. Older by all the years that have passed, but the same face under the years, the same I remembered. And he looked up at me in the doorway, and at the warm, bright, loud, full house behind me, and he said, in a voice the storm had nearly taken, that he was sorry to come so late and so wet, and that he had seen my light a long way off on the road, and had walked toward it a long time. I got him in. I got the door shut against the wind behind us both. Later, the front room, he is warm now, and dry, and fed, and asleep, I hope, in the front room, in the bed I have warmed every few days for a month. And the warming of it all those weeks does not seem foolish to me now, at all. It was a near thing, I think, his walk tonight. He had come further than an old man should in such weather, his own conveyance broken down miles back at a flooded ford, too set on his word to turn aside to a nearer house, having told me he would come to the Wheatsheaf, and meaning to come to the Wheatsheaf. He had walked the last of it on the strength of my lamp in the window, he said. He had seen it from away down the valley, the one steady yellow light in all that streaming dark, and had fixed on it and come on. I do not say the lamp saved his life. That is a larger word than a plain man should use. But I have lit that lamp every dusk for 22 years for the traveller I could not see. And tonight I saw him, and he was my own old friend, and the lamp brought him home. I will never again think the lighting of it a small thing. Tuesday, the 21st of November. Morning. I slept 2 hours in the chair by the kitchen fire near dawn, and woke to a thing I had not heard in many days, which was quiet. The storm is gone. It blew itself out in the small hours, and I half felt it go even in my chair, the roar dropping by stages, and then, near 5, simply ceasing, the way a storm does, all at once at the end, as though a door had been shut on it. I woke to stillness and to a grey light at the windows turning slowly to a clean, pale gold. And I went to the door and opened it on a washed and shining world. There was a hard frost over everything, the first real frost of the year, come in behind the storm as it often does. The flood on the meadow had gone to a sheet of still silver water, with the frost smoking off it in the first sun, and the brook was loud but falling, well back toward its banks. The road steamed. The elms down by the bend stood black and bare and dripping and entirely still. Not a breath of wind. After a month of rain and a night of storm, a frost and a flat calm and a low gold sun, the world looked scrubbed and new and very quiet. The house woke slowly and warmly after. All my storm guests, one chamber at a time, down to Lizzie's great breakfast. The bacon from the Martinmas crock and eggs and fried bread, and the kettle singing, until I had every soul the storm had brought me, sat around the long mended settle and the kitchen table, warm and dry and safe and eating, with the clean frostlight coming in at the windows. A landlord does not often get to see all his guests at one table at one time. I saw it this morning. I will keep the picture. The road opening. By the middle of the day, the guests began to go, as flood guests do once the water falls, all at once, and with great thanks. The doctor first, his horse fresh. Off to the rounds the storm had dammed up for him. The carrier and his mate down the road to dig out their wagon. The family in the trap on toward the town by the afternoon. The 2 small children waving from the back of the trap, until the bend by the elms took them. By dusk, the inn was quiet again, and nearly empty, and entirely at peace. Only old Mr. Brearley, back in his chair by the snug fire, none the worse, full of the talk of the storm, and Mr. Ellery by the kitchen fire, rested and mending, who will lodge here some weeks now, while his business keeps him in the front room, as he did all those years ago. We sat by the fire this evening, the 2 of us, 2 old men now, where once we were a young guest and a young landlord, and we did not say a great deal, and what we said was easy, and there were long quiet stretches with only the fire and the falling brook in them, and they were the most companionable part of the evening. And then it was dusk, and time for the lamp. I went to the front window and trimmed the wick and lit it, and set it in its place. as I have every night of every year. But I stood with it a moment longer than I used to, last night being so near in me. The road outside was quiet and frost bright and empty. There may be a traveller on it tonight, far off, who needs the light. There may be none. I will never know which, most nights. But I will light it the same, every dusk, for the one I cannot see, because last night taught me what I had half forgotten in 22 years of habit, which is that the light is never lit in vain, even on the nights no one comes. It is the not knowing that the light is for. The lamp is in the window. The house is warm and quiet. My old friend is by the fire. The brook is falling, and the frost is coming down hard and clean, and the worst storm of the year is behind us, and the larder is full, and there is a long, good winter ahead. I will bank the fires now, and look in on the horses and go up. You can let the inn go now. Let the lamp in the window blur and soften, and the fire sink down to its embers, and the long mended settle, and the sleeping house all fade gently back into the dark. But keep the rain, if you like. Keep the soft, steady fall of it on the road, and the windows, and the low settle of the house around you. And let those stay with you a while longer. There is nothing more to listen for now. Nothing more will happen, and nothing needs to. You can let my voice go, and let the rain take over the telling. You are warm. You are dry. You are safe. And the night will keep itself without you. The lamp is lit, and the door is shut, and the storm cannot reach the place where you are. So let yourself go all the way down now, the way the whole house has, into the warm and the dark, and the sound of the rain. Sleep now. Rest now. All is well, and the rain goes on.